Good evening, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. I'd like to welcome you to our information night on Facebook Live. My name is Father Nolan, and I work in the enrollment office here at BC High. And we have a great program set up for you tonight, and we'll get started in just a moment with that. But first, I'd like to show you as you've seen, I'm sure everyone's catching a lot of shows on streaming, and we're going to start off by showing you some highlights from our last episode. So you can catch our last episode, Athletics, on our BC High Facebook page. So as they say, previously seen on, and let me share my screen and show you our some highlights from our athletics conversation. All right, we're back. I think we had some trouble with the audio, but we'll fix that hopefully for our second half hour. My name is Father Nolan, and it is great to be with you this evening talking about academics and our academics and guidance. And we're here tonight with Bob Hamlet, and the head of our Arrupe division, our 7th and 8th grade, and with Jen Hornby, one of our guidance counselors here in our 7th and 8th grade, our Arrupe division. And maybe you could each introduce yourselves.
Sure. As Pat just said, my name is Bob Hamlet, and I'm the head of the Arrupe division. I've been at BCI now for 18 years. Been with the middle school since we started it. I'm the father of a recent graduate from the class of 2020 and the father of a present 7th grader.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Hornby. I am one of the guidance counselors in the Arrupe division, and I've been at BC High for over 4 years now.
Great. Well, let's get started. One question that people have as they're looking at BC High is, what is the transition like going from really a variety of different schools to our middle school? So, Bob, maybe you could start us off just talking about, being an accepted student, and then over the summer, what that orientation is like.
Sure. We recognize that there's a lot of transitions in September of 7th grade, and a lot of things that might make some guys a bit nervous, and we want them to be comfortable. We want them to feel as comfortable at BCI as we can at the beginning, so that they can not worry about the other things, but really focus on the academic and the academic rigor that we have. And part of that being comfortable really starts with our orientation program. We run a short orientation program in June, mostly run by our junior mentors. Those are students about to be juniors in high school. And one of the reasons for that is we recognize that most of our students are coming from schools where it's maybe a K to 6 or a middle school, 6, 7, 8. Few of our students have actually been in school with a high school student. And so some of them are nervous about that idea of going to a place that has high school students. So first thing we want to do is kind of get rid of that nervousness and introduce them to the juniors, who are wonderful, sort of help to set the tone, help to really educate the boys about the culture of BCI, about supporting each other, and sort of walk through some of the pitfalls that they experience and give them some good advice that probably could come from anybody, but sounds a lot better coming from a 16-year-old than it does from some of the adults in the room. So we do that in June, and we also have them again in late August, early September, having that orientation. And then that orientation continues into the first week or so of classes. Again, we start classes, but we also spend quite a bit of time each day, or a chunk of time each day, in their small advisory groups. Again, part of that idea of wanting them to get right into that community. But for some of the guys, it's a bigger community than they're used to. So we want to try to find ways to make it smaller. And Jen can talk a little bit about what the advisory program is.
Yeah, so we've gone from a transition. Now we're thinking September into October. And Jen, now that they're starting to feel comfortable being in the building, they have some kind of bigger brothers and the junior mentors. What is advisory like? Could you explain that?
Absolutely. So I would say probably one of my favorite things about working at BC High is the advisory program. It gives me an opportunity to really get to know a smaller group of kids really well. So what happens is when every student comes to Arrupe, they are put into an advisory of about 10 to 12 students and a faculty advisor. And so that adult really becomes their go-to person to ask questions as they're transitioning to the school, whatever might come up. That adult they see every morning in homeroom. And then that group of 10 to 12 boys really becomes a small community for them. So I love starting my day in a homeroom. I get to really get to know them. We read the morning announcements, and that's the way we can connect them to different things going on within the community. If I know I have a student there that really is looking for something to get involved in, I might give him an extra nudge in homeroom. So it's just a nice way, as I said, to get to know them. And then, of course, every Monday we have advisory period. So that faculty advisor will have their small group, and we talk about a variety of topics during that period, anything from academic study skills and time management to things like race and gender issues or goal setting or stress management. So we just have a lot of really kind of deep conversations once we've built some trust within the group. So it's a special thing. We actually revised the curriculum a couple years ago, and it's based off of the ancient practice of talking circles. So we're used to, or the kids are used to getting into a circle, really acknowledging one another's voices. Everyone feels like they have a chance to be heard in advisory.
And Bob, you have an advisory group, right? What is that like?
It's great. I have an advisory group. I have 12 advisees. I almost always have 8th graders in my advisory group. I've never had, except for a brief period of time, a 7th grade advisory group. But it's great. And just knowing, really trying to find a way to know each of those students, see them in homeroom in the morning. This year I have an interesting group because we have 5 8th graders who are fully remote for personal reasons at home. So I have the 7 boys in the room and then the guys who are Zooming into the advisory group. And I have 2 of those fully remote boys are new 8th graders this year. So one of the things I tried to do early on was just kind of get to know them. And one of the boys in an email correspondence back and forth was telling me that he's afraid to try new activities because he's really into anime and is afraid that some of the other guys may think that's kind of odd. And so when I heard that he liked anime, I said, hey, we've got an anime club in the high school. I'm sure you could join it. So I put him in touch with the person who leads the anime club in the high school. And sure enough, that Friday afternoon, I poked my head into the anime club, and there was my advisee on the wall, getting right in there. And I guess if you've never experienced an anime club, it involves watching anime movies and yelling at the screen a lot about what the characters are doing. And he was right in there with them, having a great time, feeling very comfortable. And that's, again, what Jen was saying about advisory. It's getting kids connected to the school in some way.
That's interesting. Jen, when you speaking about reading the morning announcements and all the different offerings that are available for our students, whether that's co-curriculars or sports, or we have some, could you talk about some of the one-off programs we have just this week and next week?
Yeah, absolutely. And what comes to mind is there's a 3-on-3 soccer tournament coming up. We'll offer it twice for the 2 cohorts in the next couple of weeks. And so in my homeroom with my advisory, I'm really trying to put together a couple teams. We're making it, a little bit of a competition there. And it's been helpful just to try to get a couple students involved that maybe were a bit hesitant to find their own group of 3 kids on their own. So I'm sort of assisting them with that in a subtle way. But yeah, we've had things like tournaments. We've had a Madden tournament, or that's coming up. We had a NBA 2K tournament a couple of weeks back. There's cornhole tournament tomorrow morning. So, anything where we can get a little competition and a little fun going. But the homeroom is where kids are generally hearing all the announcements about things that are happening throughout that week and that day.
That's great. And we're speaking about connections, making connections in our Arrupe division, our 7th and 8th grade. And if you're just connecting with us, with our enrollment team here at BC High, please, you can email us to kind of get started in the process. We're at enrollment@bchigh.edu. Feel free, if you're joining us live, to ask us some questions that you might have. We're talking about academics and guidance in our Arrupe division. At the 8 o'clock half hour, we'll start talking with some of our folks from our high school. So again, we're talking about making connections, and if you'd like to connect with us, if you have any questions about the enrollment process, please feel free to email us, and we'll get right back to you. Enrollment@bchigh.edu. Bob, speaking about making connections from the academic side of things. Okay, we're here, the students feel welcome, they feel connected, they feel known. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about core personalis and what that concept is all about for us here, and maybe then talk a little bit about our academic program.
Sure. Again, that a lot of what we've been talking about so far really is about core personalis, really the care for the whole person. And, again, knowing each student, finding what they're interested in, finding ways for them to do some of those interests so they make friends. Because a lot of times that's how our 7th and 8th grade boys really make friendships, is by doing things, whether that's a club or robotics, athletics, something along those ways. And a lot of times it's through the academic program, through the projects that they work on in classes. But supporting that whole student and getting that whole student comfortable and feeling like he's known and supported is so that student is ready to be successful in a very rigorous academic program. And when I say a rigorous academic program, I don't mean they're going to be doing 4 or 5 hours of homework a night. I mean that they're going to be engaged with complex ideas and concepts. They're going to wrestle with ideas, and they're going to be stretched. They're going to have homework every night, but it's not going to be a ridiculous amount. But it is going to hopefully each time be stuff that's going to allow them to push themselves, to stretch themselves. When we started the Arrupe division back in 2007, when we were planning it, I talked to the 9th grade teachers, and I said, tell me about your best prepared students. What skills do they have? And a lot of what the Arrupe division is designed to give the students those skills so that they can be successful students in the high school, and more importantly than that, lifelong learners who will continue to learn and continue to evolve throughout their lives. So when I think about complex material, and when I think about those skills, part of that is they take an introductory language in 7th and 8th grade, and that gives them the skills, hopefully, to go into level 2 honors when they get to high school. They take math classes, and we have different levels of math classes. And sometimes for some of those kids, it's getting the foundational skills so they can be successful in Algebra 1 in 9th grade. For some guys, they can get the skills that allow them to be successful in Algebra 1 in 8th grade. And other guys can go right into Algebra 1 in 7th grade. So they're stretched and go into Geometry Honors in 8th grade and be in Algebra 2 Trigonometry in 9th grade. In our team classes, which English, science, social studies, and I would put religion into the same type of class, it's that idea of building skills such as writing skills, their speaking skills, their ability to collaborate with others. Again, quite a bit of group projects. We think guys learn well by working with each other, but they also many times have to learn how to work with other people. And then the fourth one of the so big skills we look at is what I call use of information. So much of what academics is today, education is today, is teaching students how to access the information, because it's all there in so many ways that it wasn't when I went to school, but how to access that information and how to analyze it and then how to use it. So that's, again, what we're doing. We're building those skills so they can be successful both in high school and beyond.
Jen talked a little bit about the different spaces that we create at BCI, these kind of small spaces where students feel comfortable, and whether that's advisory with a group of 10 to 12 students or some of our co-curriculars, some of the programs that Jen mentioned, our cornhole tournament, NBA 2K, Madden tournament, 3v3 soccer. But Bob, maybe you could talk a little bit about how we create a space, a small space for students to get to know each other through academics in our team. What is team like? We often hear that a lot when we're talking about Arrupe.
Sure. One of the things we do is in our science, social studies, and English teachers work together in a team model. So we put one science, one English, one social studies teacher together, usually with about 40 students for the morning, or a different group of 40 for the afternoon. And they decide how to group those students, how to break them up, how much time to allocate to the different topics each day. And sometimes the students will be working on big projects that go across all three disciplines. But for a lot of kids, they will really start to know, again, there might be 150 students in the grade, but they're going to really know their advisory group of 10 to 12. And then they're going to start to know the students on their team, which would be about 40 students. And again, sometimes those are broken into 2 sections of 20. Sometimes they might be broken up into 3 sections of 15. It's going to change from day to day. And again, through those experiences they have, again, that's a lot of times when they're going to be standing up and giving a presentation, and they're going to be learning to critique each other's presentations, and they're going to be working together maybe on a science experiment, or working together on the city project in 7th grade, where they're working with other students to really kind of design and build a city. This is where, again, they make, for so many boys, it's that that idea of when they do things together, when they're involved together, that's how they make those friendships.
Bob mentioned our team teaching, and some of our different classes here in Arrupe. And a great way to experience for a prospective family, for a prospective student to experience a day in the life of a student, is by joining us for our virtual Eagle for a Day. And we offer that every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. And we'll have a live student panel. Some of the questions are really serious questions, like some of the questions we're asking tonight, like what's the food like? Those sorts of things. What's your favorite sport? But they get pretty serious. But it's student driven in terms of the live student panel. So we've talked a little bit about 7th and 8th grade, our Arrupe division, our transition to middle school, what it's like to make connections to our curriculum, to other students. What about support for our students? Jen, you touched a little bit on some of the groups that you organize with, and maybe you could just share. So you're the guidance counselor for those 2 years, and maybe share about some of those groups. Yeah. For example, that organizational group. I think I could use a little help with that one.
Couldn't we all? So as one of the guidance counselors, I'm assigned a grade. So when they enter in 7th grade, I have the entire grade as under my caseload, and I follow them for the 2 years. So again, just another way that we get to spend as much time as possible as we can with them, really know their strengths and weaknesses and likes and dislikes. So I appreciate that setup. So as the guidance counselor, beyond the faculty advisor, students certainly are going to have some challenges, whether it's academics or personal and social issues. So the guidance counselor will step in when needed. Some of the support we provide is run through small group settings. So we offer groups for students who may be experiencing grief and loss after the death of a loved one. We run a group for students whose parents are divorced or separated. We run a group for students who just identify as introverts and tend to be a little bit more on the quiet side and might find that they really appreciate a nice small space to get together and get to know one another. And sometimes we pull them out of the cafeteria, of the hustle and bustle of it all in there. So that's been a fun group. We offer a group for students that tend to be a little bit more stressed than we'd like to see, and we can talk about some stress management techniques with them in a small space. And then beyond that, of course, we're meeting with students one-on-one. We're helping them with any academic challenges that they're experiencing. And organization is a big one of those. So we have organization workshops that we offer frequently during the flex period, which is sort of when they have a little bit of free time. Sometimes that can be a large group in a classroom where we're just helping them all kind of get their notebooks in order or organize their iPad folders or just empty out their big bustling backpacks and kind of get that all organized. So it can be done in a group session, or it can be, again, a little bit more individualized. But we talk to them about strategies to organize themselves with the understanding that there's no one strategy that is for everyone. So for some guys, it's, using a paper planner is the best solution for them. For other guys, it's, they're much better with an online homework system. So yeah, we just kind of meet them where they are. Have them try a few different things and figure out what's going to be the best strategy for them to stay organized.
And in terms of, we have those groups, and then one-on-one support, we have the benefit of the high school. Bob, you talked about a particular student who was serving as a tutor in the high school, and could you share a little bit about how that works?
Sure. One of our seventh graders a couple of years ago went to the guidance counselor and said, "Hey, I need some help in math," and so she connected him with one of our junior mentors, who was an outstanding math student, and the junior mentor went to the math teacher and said, "Hey, he doesn't know his times tables. We got to fix this." And then he went home and he got the junior mentor, made some math flashcards, brought him in, said to the boy, "Hey, look, before we can get much further, you need to learn these math things." I'm not so sure. I'm sure the boy had been told many times over the years he needed to learn his timetables and memorize them. But the fact that the junior mentor said, "You need to do this, and here are the cards to do it," the boy learned them, and he did great in math in seventh grade, and again in eighth grade. And he's doing well this year in ninth grade math. He felt good about the experience, liked meeting with him every week, like meeting with the junior mentor every week. The junior mentor had a great time doing it, felt good about himself and his ability to work with the student. It was a wonderful story. And we get a number of stories like that every year, where there's just a great connection made between a seventh or eighth grader and a junior mentor.
And it's interesting, the care that you put into the different connections. Obviously, having a junior mentor who's a tutor is a natural setup. He's someone that's known. We have our National Honor Society students. But Jen, you talked about trying to match interests. Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, and again, I think just being able to know our students so well offers us this opportunity to make the best out of everything we do. So when I'm looking for a junior tutor for a seventh grade student, I'm also, using the knowledge that I have about that kid. So I've recently been trying to set someone up with a tutor, and I really want to find a match, that two boys that are really passionate about lacrosse, because I know that the intent is to learn algebra, but I think if they have this common interest of lacrosse, they'll be able to also build a relationship while they're doing the math. And I think that will just become so much more meaningful, and it'll keep the relationship going.
Yeah, and in terms of, we talked about groups, how we support our students. We talked about tutors. You mentioned earlier an interesting story of a student who really looked up to Ozzy Trapillo, who's now playing football at BC, and just being able to work with him, this huge giant coming over to help with math, was a great way to connect with our guys. Technology is on everybody's minds. We seemingly are all on our screens all day long. And I think it's easy for us to take for granted that, oh, well, our students are digital natives and they have it all figured out. But maybe you could share just a little bit, Bob, about when we're talking about technology, how do we prepare our students in 7th and 8th grade for what does it mean to be a good digital citizen?
Sure. One of the things, we are on a one-to-one iPad program in the 7th and 8th grade. So every student coming in has to have his own iPad. We do put a lot of, we have some management software on that that is able to restrict how many decisions he has to make. But a lot of what we do in 7th and 8th grade in conversations back and forth is just helping them to be aware of what are the possibilities and the negative possibilities of being on technology and being on the internet on a regular basis, and just helping them be aware of the kind of decisions that they may be faced by at different times, and help them to think through those decisions. And that happens all the time. We have to help our students to learn how to use technology wisely, how to make sure it does not become something that harms them or harms someone they like. But the other thing is also, just at the beginning of the year, teaching our students how to use the technology. So teaching them, how to use, there's a lot of very good resources we have through technology, whether that's Canvas page this year, of course, having the kids use Zoom so they can come into school even the weeks that they're at home, but also a number of different apps that we use that allow our students to demonstrate their knowledge. And sometimes it's a good way to them to build up the idea of how to organize complex ideas in a way that's maybe an oral presentation, a video presentation, a way that then strengthens, as they start to understand how ideas better fit together, strengthens their ability to write out those ideas as well.
We talk a lot here about BC High, Boston, and beyond, and certainly through our Arrupe division at BC High, that we get involved in the local community through service and through field trips and hands-on projects with our 7th and 8th graders. And when we think of beyond, what do you hear from students who are freshmen now, who are sophomores in the high school? What are some comments that they have to share about how well prepared they've been?
Jen, you want to take this? You want me to take this?
Yeah, no, I think we hear all the time. I mean, it's actually really cute because a lot of times the students go off to 9th grade, and then, through September, October, we see them frequently wandering the halls of Arrupe. So they sort of miss us. I think they miss the community a little bit, and that's where they're comfortable. And so we do hear from them in that fall semester that, they're feeling like they can navigate the high school quite well. They're feeling academically prepared. They'll say some cute things about just, hey, I have Mr. Lynch for math, so I know exactly how to take a test and how to study and take notes. So I think certainly anecdotally, we're hearing often from them how prepared they do feel.
That's great. And it's great to see them come back as junior mentors and kind of complete the circle of life there in a way. Well, we've been talking about our Arrupe division, our 7th and 8th grade, and this video is going to be available on our BC High's Facebook account in the videos section. Special thanks to Bob Hamlet, the head and the founder of our Arrupe division, and Jen Hornby, one of our guidance counselors. It's been great having a conversation with you tonight. Thanks for spending the extra time with us, and please stick around. We're going to have a conversation with some of our folks from the high school. But thanks so much, Bob, and thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Well, that was a great conversation just to learn a little bit more about our 7th and 8th grade. At